Hey, welcome to Gracie Schwartzwald. I'm here with Erkan Mete, and we're continuing on with our complete Gracie Jiu-Jitsu self-defense course. And now we're moving into a whole nother section. Again, when I say complete Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, that means we're going to focus on kind of 6 different aspects, right? And that is standing self-defense techniques, takedowns, clinch work, striking, groundwork, philosophy. Okay, so if you are missing one of those parts, you're not training one of those parts, you're not learning, in my mind, you're not learning the complete art, right? Yeah, you may be very effective at one aspect or another, but you have weaknesses, right? I used to say, like, I had Manny Pacquiao. If you had to box Manny Pacquiao, how long would that go?
2 seconds.
Right? Now, you at least have an idea what to do, but on the ground, how long would he last against you? About 2 seconds, right? Okay, so it's where we want to specialize, but we don't want to be completely clueless, right? If you have the fundamentals of takedown, can you take down a good high school or college wrestler? Probably not. Can you take down the average person out here? Can you make it hard? I mean, I never wrestled in high school, but I can make it very hard for a good wrestler to take me down, right? I can't maybe take him down, but I can make it very hard for him to take me down just because I have trained it quite a bit. I'm not saying that I'm a great wrestler, but the point is I'm comfortable enough in that I don't just go, oh, I don't know what to do, let me pull guard. Right? So same thing with striking, right? With jiu-jitsu, there's 2 fallacies people have about jiu-jitsu. One is that there's no striking in jiu-jitsu, right? Helio Gracie won one of his fights with a body kick, okay? And the second is people who go, well, yeah, there's striking, but it's crappy striking, right? And that's because they don't understand the purpose of the striking. The striking isn't to stand here in the pocket and bang away, right? Helio and Carlos weren't teaching this art because I want to get the toughest guy off the street and have him go win a bunch of fights. It was, what do I do about, your sister or, your brother who doesn't have physical attributes? How does he defend himself? Or your mom? And telling them to just stand in the pocket and bang is ridiculous, right? The whole point of the striking was as a way to control distance, to stay in the safe areas, right? To stay very far away, or to use it as a way to get into the clinch, whether I'm using striking or whether he's using striking. And that's the other important part. Even if you say, I don't want to learn how to strike because that's not part of jiu-jitsu, I don't want to do that. What is the other person probably going to do in a fight?
Striking.
Right. So, I can't believe I have to say this, but I have to say this all the time. If you are not training to defend strikes, and I don't mean once every year you do a class with a couple poorly taught punch defenses, you're untrained against the vast majority of the population. You may be a purple belt, but you're a day 1 white belt if the guy's trying to punch you in the face. Okay, so even though I have no interest in striking, learning how to strike allows me to learn how to defend strikes, right? If Erkan doesn't know how to punch correctly, he just kind of does like this, that's not realistic. He's got to at least master the basics so when we are practicing here, and there are times when I might have to strike, right? It's not the most effective, as I say, right? If you do a rear naked choke to 10 people correctly, what happens to those 10 people?
Every one of them falls asleep.
Now, if you hit all 10 square in the face exactly the same, what happens? Some get knocked out, maybe some get hurt, maybe some just look at you, right? It's not a reproducible situation. That's why striking isn't effective, as well as damaging your hands or being in legal trouble. But it is still one of your tools, right? And more importantly, it's one of your enemy's tools. Okay, so we need to learn how to strike if we ever have to use it, and we also need to learn how to strike so that we can train properly against somebody who is going to use it against us. So the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to review really quickly the distances, okay, and postures in the distances. You don't have to do this, but it's kind of a little bit of my recommendation is what you can understand your situation to be. So if we're 2 arm lengths away or further, which I consider the self-defense range, I don't need to be squared up here, hunched down, hands up high like this, okay, as I might be if I was right in the pocket in a kickboxing match. I can actually be more turned. He's going to be more sideways, almost like a Taekwondo stance, and this hand can be much more out, checking, right? Why? Well, he wouldn't want to stand like this way close. Why? Let's stand this way, right? Because I can eat that leg up, I can take you down, right? It's hard to sprawl, things like this. But if I'm this far away, Can I kick you? Not with a roundhouse kick, right? Can I hit you? Right? If I start to come close, how easy it is to set up the Bizao. Right? Because the leg is already there, right? You're much further away. This is why Taekwondo and, you know, and karate guys, and I mean, look at some of the guys like Wonder Boy Thompson, right? He uses this very much. People used to laugh at it, and then he was knocking people out and not getting hurt. Okay, so we can be here, and this hand is out. Again, this is one of those, in the early UFC, people were doing this, and then later people said, no, you have to do this, and now what do you see a lot? Guys are here checking, right? Because this is early. If I try to get into you, you can frame me off, right? Here, right? You don't want to have your hand like right here, and then, can you judge my distance yet? It's hard to read my distance, isn't it? You don't have that early warning system. Now, I don't want to be here when that's, because you come over the top of that, bam, I'm out. Right? If I'm here, you try to come over the top of that. Yes, yeah, I'm here. Now, and we can be light, because what are we doing? Come, right? I need to move, right? But now, as we get closer, I said this before, as I get closer, I go more square and I get heavier. So we get in more of a kickboxing range, like almost in the pocket kind of situation. He wants to be more square. Like, you can be in a boxing situation, like if you're in the street, and by that I mean I'm more turned this way. Well, I can be a little bit more bladed, because the chance of the guy knowing how to kick legs and do single legs is pretty low. Okay? But if it's more of a sparring situation where I know about that, I'll be a little bit more squared, where I can check, or I can sprawl here. But I can be more of a 45 instead of a more sideways here. Okay? And we'll talk about the hands and all that in a minute. Okay? Then as we get closer, we're more here. We're more squared. Okay, and I'm more heavy. So if we're into a grappling situation, I want to be more squared on. So if he goes for my hips, you know, I can sprawl, I can get in, I can use both knees. I'm heavier, pick me up. Right? If I'm up here dancing around, right? Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of our body positioning as we move in and out of these different ranges. Okay. Again, you could stay in one body position the whole time. It's absolutely fine. Okay. But if I'm farther away, I want to utilize the usefulness of that range, right? I want to be able to open up more, use longer range attacks, have early warning systems, okay? If I get close in, I want to be heavier, have more of my tools available to me, okay? So now that we've talked about that, and the reason I'm making that a separate video is we covered that in one of the earlier portions. And we talked about, again, why striking is important. It is a tool. Now we're going to go over kind of the basic stance for striking. Okay, so can I get you to face the camera? The easiest way to learn this is just get a comfortable stance, feet shoulder width apart. Now you're going to step one leg back. Most of the time, if you're right-handed, we're going to start our right leg back. Now, I can just adjust my front foot so I'm in a good, comfortable position. So don't think martial arts, right? I'm not kind of like getting anything like this. I'm just going to fade back, and then I adjust my feet. I'm comfortable. So this leg is not like this. It's going to be a little bit turned. The weight is slightly on the balls of my feet. Not up tall. This isn't Muay Thai. I just want to be slightly off my heels. Because if I'm on my heels and you push me, yeah, my leg's locked. So I'm here, so I have the ability. Okay? Knees are only slightly bent. I'm not doing a squat. There's just a slight bend so that he can be ready to move here. Okay, good. Notice he's more or less, for this motion, more or less squared up. Okay, now let's talk about the arms. Okay, all he's going to do is keep your arms at your side and then bring them up. Okay, I always tell people, well, you know, imagine you have two cell phones from the 90s, right? Or no, the 2000s, the little tiny ones, right here. Okay, so I don't want to be down here like this. Okay, so he brings his hands up, face the camera, here. Elbows are in. So the two major mistakes, I always joke that if you are a jiu-jitsu coach, you'll spend all your life screaming, keep your elbows in. And if you're a boxing coach, you'll spend all your life screaming, keep your hands up. Okay, so elbows are in, so they're not flared out redneck style, here. And hands are up, not down here. Okay, as my friend Seth Shamp says, this is your computer. If this gets turned off, everything else gets turned off. So having your hands down here doesn't help protect your computer. Okay, so bring your hands up, and we're right here. Now, The other thing he's going to do, he's going to tuck his chin. This is really where you're going to get knocked out or behind the ear, right? So he doesn't want to have his chin up in the air. Now, by the way, sometimes people will laugh at this. If he's farther away, here, I can have my head back and my chin up. That's fine, because it's very unlikely I can reach it. But if he's in close, he doesn't want to have his... That's why you see people get knocked out. They're arguing like this. You couldn't give the guy a better opportunity. Okay, so now, hands are up, elbows are in, protecting his body. Okay, here, chin is tucked, eyes are looking forward. He's looking up his eyebrows. So he's not looking this way, he's looking this way. Now, this is our fight stance. Go ahead, back. The self-defense stance, all he's going to do is same exact stance, open his hands. He can be here, he can be here. If his hands are here, notice they're very close, not here. Here, if it's a low threat self-defense, called washing the hands. So if his hands are, let me catch here, and I try to get them, yeah, I'll use right here. Okay? So this. Now the simplest way, if it turns into a fighting situation, he can go right here. Now, often with fighting, I'll still keep my hands open because I can post, I can check. You know, most of the time I'm only going to make a fist right at the end. And also from a self-defense situation, if two people saw us arguing and they see me do this, your hands are open. Who are they going to say was the antagonist? Yeah. Right. So keep your hands open here so that you are giving off, you know, defense cues. Okay. So stance. Start square first. Okay. By the way, the defensive stance, he can just start right here, hands together, weight on the foot. But if he thinks he's going to maybe have to do some striking, he's going to fade the leg back, elbows in. If it's going to be more serious, here or here. Okay. Perfect. All right. And that is our basic stance. The good thing about our stance, a good boxing stance or a good striking stance, is you don't need 100 different stances. So we're not going to switch to different things unless we're just mocking our opponent. So anything to add to that? Okay. So basic, we're just kind of covering the distance here and the basic stance. Something I preach, I know I'm talking a lot, but it's really important to understand. Something I preach with the groundwork, with everything, is always what? Get to the correct position before you start anything. Right? I don't try to pass guard when I'm out of position. I don't do takedown when I'm off balance. Right? I don't start fighting when my hands are in the wrong place. Here, first thing I'm going to do is if I move, I'm going to get into position. Then we can be effective in whatever technique we're doing.